People starting to come in. Very cool. We had a last minute wardrobe change as Alyssa believes I was dressed way too casually.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you.
I hear that often.
From me or from other people?
All around the board.
Yeah. All right. If you have not already, close out Slack, close out Claude, close out Grokbot, close out Codex, all the other things that we're suddenly addicted to and fully reliant on. Get a coffee. I've got mine here. It is almost done. I need a refill. And get ready to learn. Um, we have an hour booked for this session. I don't think it's going to take that long. I do plan to get as much value as possible into this in as interactive as a possible way. While we go through this, we're definitely going to be going through a ton of material. Some of it's kind of dense, some of it's not so much. Either way, questions I'm sure will come up. We're here to provide as much valuable information as possible. As those questions come up, throw it in the Q&A. Alyssa, I believe you have access to the Q&A. Just we'll monitor those. Also, anything kind of like in the moment, throw a chat message in there as well. And we'll go through it and try to just make this as custom tailored to everyone here as possible. Another thing I would love to see people put in the chat right now is what you're working on and what you're hoping to accomplish from this session. That's going to help me better tailor a lot of what I speak to. So what you're working on, what's your company doing, where you at as far as growth, where you're at as far as marketing, and then what are you hoping to take away from this? I'll give you guys a minute to fill that in. I'll ask you, Alyssa, what do you hope to accomplish here?
What do I hope to accomplish? I'd love to just, educate some people on the processes that we've found working, especially on the tech side, with relation to how we've helped clients find success on X campaigns.
For everyone's knowledge, Alyssa hates being put on the spot, which is why I'm going to
Thank you.
continue to do it.
So nice of you. Jake says that the chat is disabled, so I'm trying to figure out the settings so that okay, no, it says everyone.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
getting that
I just
message
fixed
too.
it. I just fixed it. Jake, will you test that for me and make sure that, yep, there we go. Cool. Fixed it.
I see Sarah, but I see Sarah is messaging just hosts and panelists. Make sure that you're putting it in for everyone. There's a drop down. It's two, and then the options are like host and panelist. There you go. There you go. Sarah's got it.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
What's up, Elizabeth? All right, cool. Um, let's get into it then. Um, duh, 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 duh. All right. So I asked everyone what their goals were for this. I have my own goals coming into this. And the main goal that I have is making sure that everyone here by the end of this has a really good understanding of what all the current successful tech companies are doing to launch successfully on X. There's a pretty refined format that we're going to go through. It basically is guaranteed to get you between 200K and 2 million impressions on your launch announcement. And we're going to go through that, and I want to make sure that leaving this, everyone feels fully in the loop about how the process works. Maybe we can go through like associated costs, common mistakes that people make, and get, as in the weeds as people would like. Again, throw questions as they come up through the Q&A. And then also, if you stay till the end, we're going to go through a 6 question checklist that we use internally at the agency to kind of decide, is this worth us putting budget behind for an announcement and going through the whole kind of life cycle of what I'm about to talk us through. So that is a good question, a good checklist definitely to run things by before you decide, is this the next announcement worth it to put some money behind? All right, let's do some intros then. Me and John will be leading this. Alyssa, I did not plan on you being on camera and in the mix, so you can do your own kind of intro if you want. Otherwise, again, I know you don't like to be on the spot, so I won't ask you to be too on the spot. But about myself first, I'm the founder and CEO of Clickstrike. We're a tech marketing agency. We help some of the biggest companies, most successful launches of this year launch on X, make sure that they're seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, so that all of the hard work that they're putting in for months, years, whatever it is, to build an awesome product gets seen when the time comes. I've been in the tech marketing space for the better half of a decade, close to 9 years, I believe, at this point. And then across that time, I've worked with about 900, close to 1,000 clients, all within the tech space. John, I'll let you intro yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ty. All right. So my name is John. I work on the influencer team right here at Clickstrike, and it's amazing to be on this call today. And so far, so good. It's been super, super great and amazing. On the team, we've literally worked with so many different clients, just as Ty mentioned. Right here at Clickstrike, we've literally serviced hundreds of clients. And, so far, very much recently, we've launched pretty much well over 75 campaigns across, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. And, we've got a very, very solid and robust team here at Clickstrike that literally works on every needed nitty-gritty as it relates to influencer campaign for successful tech, launches. So super excited to share my knowledge here on this call today. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, let's move on then. Next. All right, I want to kind of paint the picture, and this is a picture that sounds incredible, and most people think isn't realistic, and they think I'm trying to sell them some BS. Uh, it's launch day. Imagine this: it's launch day. You're hitting publish on your announcement on X. Within the hour, you're trending on X, and your inbox is filling up. Your DMs are filling up. VCs, investors are reaching out to you rather than you constantly trying to, sell them on yourself. Leads are coming in, site traffic is up. You're getting mentioned in press that you didn't pitch yourself. The sales process is the friction is reduced on it because people have heard from you before. It's the kind of thing that, as the GIF suggests, sounds mind-blowing, but it's much more attainable than I think most people think if they know how to approach the problem correctly. Um, it's basically what every founder is hoping to accomplish on launch day. Launch day for a lot of people is very anxiety provoking. You put a lot of eggs into this basket. A lot of times founders feel like maybe their identity is wrapped up in this launch. It has to go well. If this launch doesn't go well, it's a reflection of my product or my hard work. Um, so there's a huge premium on that day going well and generating the results that you hope it generates. Um, Fortunately, the ability to actually have that day be a spectacular day is incredible. I like to think of launch day for tech companies as sort of like the wedding day. It's like the big day, all your hard work, it's paid off. It's time for you to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Obviously, there's work to be done after that, but it's just a great kind of celebration of a day, assuming it goes well, which it usually does. All right. So, like I said, it's for most people, this sounds like a rosy, like imagine that would be fantastic, but not realistic. It's totally a pipe dream. It's not. This is the kind of thing that we do pretty regularly as an agency. I've thrown up a couple examples here of launches that we've been involved with lately. You can see a couple trending on X News. That's very common and very normal for this style of campaign that we're going to go through today. All of these launches were seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions. I've thrown some examples of content up here. Can you see my mouse when I hover that?
Yes, yes, we sure can.
Yep.
Cool, cool. Um, Two companies here I'm going to highlight. This one, Anom AI, they do a very cool video model that allows you to kind of apply like a video person model to written text. So it's great for like customer support, things like that. It was a very cool product, very cool model. They tasked us with making sure that their Cara 4 launch, which was their latest model, was seen by a lot. And like the screenshot suggests, we were able to get it seen by over 500,000 views on that announcement, and it was trending number one on today's news on X for the broader AI space. It was a super exciting day for them and for us. Similarly, this other company, Patronus AI, you can see the screenshot up here. We've run a number of campaigns for them. This first one, this screenshot's taken from a funding announcement when they raised $50 million. The second one is taken from another campaign we did shortly after that fundraise, which was focused on a open sourcing release that they had. Again, another example of a couple 100,000 views on a piece of content for the announcement, and then trending number one on X News, even above these things like Base 44 hitting 200 million ARR, and some news from Anthropic. Again, very exciting day, very for all of us involved. Um, it's very fun. It's very fun to be part of.
Yeah. So I mean, if I probably to add a couple of things more to what you just said, Ty. Looking at the way X really is nowadays, with the ever-changing algorithm, I just think it's quite important to just stay on top of what exactly works. And these two campaigns that we just recently ran is proof of that. So like amazing, amazing, amazing shout out to everybody on the team working on this. So yeah, super excited to talk about it more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and all this stuff would not have been possible without John and that whole team, which we'll go through in a little bit more depth soon. But I promise to try to make this as low salesy as possible. I really want to make sure everyone just leaves this understanding what that looks like, the feasibility of it, and if it will or not, will not work for them when it comes time for them to launch. Okay. And generally, the main takeaway I want people to leave this with is this concept that going viral on X, it's an engineered event. It's not just based on luck. It's the kind of thing that most people that are not, I guess, experienced in the tech marketing world don't realize. They think when they see something trending that it's just fully an organic kind of thing. That is not the case. Like it or hate it. When you see something trending, especially on X, especially on any social media platform like that, there usually is some degree of engineering behind the scenes, either by a team like us or similar, or the team internally. But it's not luck. It didn't just happen by accident. Um, there's planning that goes into it. There is a lot of work that goes into it, and a lot of very intentional work that goes into it. And usually there's a relatively repetitive process that goes into it as well, which we'll go into um, a bit in a moment. Again, I'm going to go through a lot pretty quickly. Feel free to throw something in the Q&A if questions come up. We'll answer some on the fly and then some towards the end of this. There'll be another time for more intentional Q&A. And also feel free to throw things in the chat as well.
So I think I'll probably want to just add a few things to just what you said, Ty. So when people hear about X, like engineering engagements or going viral on X, right? There are two different categories that people literally look at. They're looking at, oh, are you talking about maybe a situation where we have spam accounts, bots, and all of that? This is literally not what this is about. We're talking about actually working with like credible human accounts, literally to lend their voice to campaigns. And that essentially is what makes content go viral. I mean, very recently we've seen a lot of clamp down, right, from X, on egg, what's it called, on spam accounts, on various bots, with respects to trying to, farm impressions or farm views. This is not something related to that at all. This is more or less what how do I put it right now? This is more or less us working with a community of people who have existing identities and who have existing clouds within the space that we're trying to get into for them to lend their voice, for them to, put their, voice to whatever we're releasing and then share it with, their community. And that exactly is how we're able to get some level of, of organic push. Because right now, as we see the data, I think much recently, the ex head of products at X, Nikita, recently released the statistics that shows that the daily average users that we're having on X is pretty much on an uptrend. So when you have such data, it literally means that there's going to be a lot of content that gets lost in the crowd. So when you don't, engage this process, to have credible people lend, some sort of, clouds of visibility to your products, you just have your content go into X, algo, and then it just goes out and dies, without any sort of visibility. So I think this is really just an important point to, to take home. It's not bots, it's not spam. Rather, it's organic lending of voice to product launches and, on in the tech space. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that distinction because also as I go through the slide and I see the word engineered, it does sound like where you like there's bots involved or things that are inorganic. That's not the case at all. It's engineered via the people that are behind the scenes. All real people just being applied correctly. Nothing's being done via, something that's going to like violate terms of service or anything like that. Um, when we talk about going viral on X, almost always when someone who hasn't done it before will kind of like throw these kind of like rebuttals. I'd consider a lot of these rebuttals to be almost like self-limiting beliefs that they kind of like start immediately poking holes in like why it's not going to work for them. And it's a little heartbreaking to hear that because we know that, you don't have to have a ton of cash or all these things for it to work. So I want to go through a bunch of the common mistakes, as common myths that people make, or common misassumptions, I guess, um, that we frequently hear when people are considering applying it to themselves. Number one, I feel like that we hear is, well, I'm not well connected, right? Like I haven't raised a lot of money from these top VCs. I don't have a ton of friends that are influencers, which with a lot of clout on X. Like it's not going to work. That's how it's working for these guys because they announce something. They've got a lot of like the right people already on their roster within their network, and that's why it works for them. That's not the case. That's I'd say the most common thing that people like say to themselves about why it's not going to work. Maybe in the past there was some, aspect to that. There always is a little bit of an aspect to that, but it's not like a precluding factor from a successful launch. You don't need to be super well connected, and you don't need to be super well funded, honestly, to have a really successful launch on X. Um, the next one, which is honestly my favorite, is that your product has to be amazing to go viral on X and have a successful launch. And the reason it's my favorite is because it sounds like it makes sense until you think about it, right? It's a launch. No one's used your product yet. It's all about the marketing at that point. It has nothing to do with your product. A launch going viral has nothing to do with the fact that the product is great. No one that sees your launch has tried the product because no one usually has tried the product. You just have to have the right mission, and the right marketing collateral built out, as well as, of course, the like growth engine that we're, describing in more detail here. Um, Not only that, but even if people have tried your product, like you see what you spend some time on X, go through the products that are trending. They're not all incredible products. Like a lot of them are not so great, to be honest. Um, a great product helps a ton. It makes things less expensive. It makes there less like friction to launching, and it makes there to be obviously less friction in like the sales process, when it comes to like those next steps. But it's certainly not a required factor for a successful launch. Successful business, yes. Successful launch, no. The last one, it's extremely expensive. Sometimes it shocks people, I think, how much reach they can get for a low amount of money. Um, Most people are familiar with like what it costs to run like paid ads or something like that. Um, the rates to go viral on X and be trending on X and have this launch that's seen by so many people, it's more expensive than paid ads, but it's not that much more expensive than paid ads. Typically, we'll see in these campaigns anywhere between like an average of $30 to $50 CPM. If you're going to compare that with like paid ads, usually you're comparing it against like maybe $8 to $15 CPM. So it is more expensive, but it's significantly more impactful in terms of social proof building, in terms of trust building. Um, no VC is going to reach out to you because they saw your ad. They're going to reach out to you because they saw you trending on X. A lot of those kind of like social proofs that key stakeholders need to see before they're willing to really get involved and buy into your mission. And these types of campaigns buy that in a way that no other form of marketing can. And again, it's not that expensive. We've had clients trending on X for as little as $7,500. It's a low price point. Of course, you can better guarantee success with a bigger budget and more reach, but it's not the six-figure number that a lot of people think it is. Okay, why don't we then move on to a little bit on what the process actually looks like for the launch. So I'm going to break this down into three steps. Each of the steps really has a lot of sub-steps for the sake of not overwhelming anyone. I'll leave it relatively high level for now. The first one is the announcement. So the announcement has to be a handful of things, which we'll go through on the checklist, but above all, designed for retention. So not every announcement is built around a launch video, but it is the most common and I would say most successful form of key content that you're going to amplify. I've also seen it work with like more animated videos or even GIFs, but there usually should be. We've seen it done with just text-based announcements, but it's just not as effective, honestly. When it comes to videos specifically, everything should be designed for retention. I'll go through that on the next slide a little bit more because the next slide is just about the launch video and kind of like dynamics of that. Um, but designed for attention, meaning designed to capture attention, designed to keep attention throughout the whole thing, and that will set you up for the most success. Number two is a coordinated boost window. So when John gets to his slides, he'll go through a lot of like what that really means and how it works from like a logistics perspective. But in general, you need to be very well coordinated. That's a key to these campaigns being successful. You don't want to spread it out across too long a period of time. There's a lot of things that trigger to the algorithm on X and most social media platforms for that matter. This is worth amplifying at a very big and very fast rate. And concentration of attention in a short window of time to a single piece of content, ideally, is exactly what that does. Beyond that, kind of like more secondary factors would be making sure that the messaging that we're going out to market with is enticing. Usually something related to like a problem that a lot of people have and how we're about to fix it. Obviously, a big thread right now is we're having this problem from the legacy world. AI can be applied now to fix it in a way that makes it like, a thousand times easier, whatever. And we're, on that mission to build it. That's a mission that resonates well with a lot of companies. Um, the next part is carefully selecting the creators. And again, that's more John's department, so I'll defer the details there. But in general, it's just making sure that everything, you have the right pieces being applied at a very specific time. And that requires a lot of coordination. And that's, I think, a big part of why our clients especially like to work with an agency, because to manage 50, 75, 100 plus influencers within a 1, 2, 3 hour window is incredibly difficult. You need a team that has strong relationships with those people, knows how the process works, knows what common blockers are and how to get ahead of them, and has the bandwidth, honestly. Unless you're a full-time influencer manager, it's unlikely you have the bandwidth to manage that many accounts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry to cut you, Ty, but I just wanted to lend some credence to what you just mentioned. So, talking about, a coordinated boost window, I think the very first thing we also need to realize is that attention is costly. And the essence of social proof is to make sure we amplify the messaging as often as possible. Take, for instance, let's say maybe a user is just, scrolling through X and then he reads something about, let's just say it's reading something around tech and AI or a particular product. Now, once it scrolls away from that particular away from that particular post at that point in time, literally there's going to be like other myriads of posts, on his timeline, and then it just goes, oh, he has literally forgotten, right, about the earlier content, that was posted. But then when we have a situation whereby multiple content, from various influencers that are speaking about this particular subject, right, goes out within that same window. Even if it keeps scrolling from one, it moves to the other. And literally, the idea at the end of the day is to spark one level of curiosity. That, okay, looks like something is going on here. I saw this just 5 minutes ago. I'm seeing something else now. I think this is something I need to pay my attention to. And before you know it, that could be a potential customer, a potential lead, or a potential community member. So I think at the end of the day, yes, this point about having a coordinated boost window is also something that is, quite important that a lot of teams also need to focus on. This is what we do at Clickstrike. Over to you, Ty. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. The last part here is just acknowledging the fact that the launch doesn't end on the launch, right? A launch is really the start to something, and follow-up is very important. You usually are putting a lot of resources, financial, time, emotional resources into the launch. Be prepared that once that is done, you're going to need to follow up with it. You need to deliver on your promises. You need to just keep people talking about you. It's the kind of thing that you can do more than once, by the way, a launch. So not just like when you launch an announcement, whatever you want to call it, can be done at pretty regular intervals. So you won't be announcing the same thing, of course, but we have very common like month one, we're going to announce a funding announcement. Month two, we're going to announce this new feature that we did. Month three, we're going to announce this new feature that we did. All that stuff, if we can make sure that each of those is a trending event and a really viral event, that's the point where people are like, okay, what these people do hits every time. They obviously have the makings of a successful team. I'm paying attention now. I'm much more bought in. I believe them more. I trust them more. I'm way more likely to use their product. Now I want to go back to the video. just the dynamics of how what goes into a successful launch video. As I mentioned, a launch video isn't always the asset that's being boosted, but it is the most common and I will say the most effective. It's the piece that everything amplifies. So to even go a step back to what an X amplification campaign is, we're taking one piece of content, ideally one piece of content, and we're boosting it. So we're having a ton of influencers engage with it, um, comment, repost, quote repost, things like that. But it's usually a one piece of content from the company directly. So that cornerstone piece of content usually is a video, but again, not always. If it is a video, again, retention is the goal. Retention equals growth. So if you look at I don't know if I can draw on this thing, but if you were to look like at a successful launch versus an unsuccessful launch, John, tell me if you can see when I start drawing this. If I'm going to look at retention over time, an unsuccessful launch looks like this. And that's launch time. That's watching time. So someone this is 100 people, they just started the video, very quickly they're leaving. That's an unsuccessful launch. That is not going to go viral. What you want to do is design for the first 3 seconds. That's like the biggest time where it says this is going to work, this is not going to work, this is interesting, this is not interesting. You want it to look a lot, there's always going to be a drop off, but you want it to look a lot more like this. Pretty steady and straight. The curve is bad. The exponential decline is bad. Straight is normal. I mean, in an ideal world, everyone, right, you just go straight across, but that's not what happens. Um, so yeah, hook in the first 3 seconds. Number two is show it rather than describe it. The whole reason videos usually outperform anything else is the fact that it's visual. People have a short attention span. They don't care as much to read through a whole like blurb as they would, just passively watch a video. Especially a video that has a lot of animations and quick cuts and things like that, which we'll go through with the other bullet points. Show it. So most people that are on this are launching a tech product. Most of those is some type of software or something that involves some type of digital visual representation of it. Use that. Obviously, use that. That is so helpful. Makes people understand the product immediately, way better than you're going to describe it. Show the product is basically the gist there. Um, Three, so not letting the frame sit still. Quick cuts, super important. Constantly zooming. Never should you have a just static like frame. Even if it's just a person sitting talking from a desk, it should be like zooming in or panning out at all times. There's some kind of movement has to be in every single shot all the time, and that's like 100% required. Even if you're showing a screenshot, that has to be kind of zooming in and zooming out. A lot of it's attention and just keeping people engaged. Um, we were going through a study recently and we saw like what the average like cut zoom time is. It's 1.7 seconds, which is a surprisingly short amount of time between each thing that you're showing on screen. Something that's not on here is the average length of a launch video. Usually it's 15 to 45, 60 seconds. It's shorter than most people think. It's not the full announcement. It's just like a launch. So it's designed a little bit differently than how you might do like a investor presentation, for example. And then the last part here is cut it tighter than you think. So with leaving frames no longer than 1.7 seconds, you are have to be very intentional with every single like millisecond that's on screen. And you want to make sure it's moving quickly and showing a lot in that short period of time. Very commonly, we'll see people actually speeding up the footage that they have by like 5 to 10%. That's the kind of sweet spot of it looks like it's moving fast, but it's not, it doesn't look artificially sped up. And again, all that is just the name of the game is keep people watching as long as possible, keep their attention. Do that with a great first 3 seconds, which involves a hook, as well as animations and just kind of like movement. John, the next slide is your department. So let's
All right, all
why
right, all
why
right.
influencers? Why male models?
Absolutely. Thanks, Ty. I think before I get into this, I just wanted to share something else with respects to the previous slide, which you also mentioned, which is talking about the importance of what a launch video is. I think one of the things a lot of products or a lot of companies right now need to understand is the fact that the world is moving towards much more video. right? Right now, we're having people, have lower, attention span. And just as you have described, right, all of the various facets that is important to make a very good launch video, those are perfect, absolutely perfect. And when we look at right now the rise of streaming platforms like Twitch, that is to tell you that people want to be able to see people. They want to see what you're talking about. They don't just want to read it. They don't just want to read some text or maybe just see an image. They want to see something moving, right? Because literally in our day to day, what influences most of what we do is what we see, right? Maybe it's a car passing by, or maybe it's a human being passing by. People want to see things, and that is the essence, right, of a launch video. And right now, even on X, the algorithm pretty much favors much more video. Just earlier on, I name dropped the X product head of product at X. Just a few weeks ago, he literally tweeted about X refining its algorithm to favor even much more video creation, right? They want a lot of much more videos on the platform. We see the rise of daily average users on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and all of these various video platforms. In fact, to the point whereby even Facebook had to incorporate a Reels feature. That's to let you know that videos is actually quite key and quite important, to a launch. And I think that's quite important. So going down to, my particular slide on here. So talking about why influences, I think the very first thing we need to understand on really is this. Right now, we're in a creator economy. What do I mean? The present social media or internet space is coordinated, or it's much more engineered around people with a lot of clout, right? So people want to be able to relate with humans, right? And not just brands. They want to be able to relate with somebody they're talking to, right? Because, okay, take for instance, you're reading a book. When you're reading a book, you're literally just assimilating information. You are not exactly relating. When we look at most of the, top viral videos, they are done, right, by humans, right? Statistics shows this. So the essence of pretty much having influencers is that it's important to get much more awareness. So every strong asset still needs distribution, right? Even if you're putting out a video, on a company page, people need to be able to relate to it. Okay, what exactly is this about? Who's going to lay credence to this, right? And then when we have coordinated creators talk about it, then that is literally what amplifies it, right? Why struggle when you don't really have a lot of clout, when there's pretty much a much more bigger audience out there that could lay credence to exactly, what you're trying to push, right? So that's kind of like one of the most important things we need to look at on why influencers. And then there's so many reasons for this, as we see on here. The first one, your account has a ceiling, and this is true. No matter how much, no matter how much followers a brand account has, it still needs that level of human feeling, right, to be able to tap into certain communities or certain audiences. Now, I'm just going to move away from tech just a little bit. So just a few days ago, I was checking out a couple of things on Virgin Voyages, right? It's a cruise line owned by the Virgin company, right? And then I was seeing a lot of content from UGC creators, influencers about the cruise line talking about. I'm like, wait a minute, these guys have their own pages, right? So why exactly are these videos not on their pages? It's not because these videos can't be on their pages, but it's because humans at the end of the day are the best people to relate to humans, right? So let's say probably you put out a post as a tech company, you're building a new product. Maybe it's in the AI space, maybe it's about fintech, or whichever the case is, right? But then this use case, until somebody probably tries it out or somebody talks about, okay, this is exactly how it works, that is just how it's going to be, right? So your own account as a brand has a ceiling. There's only an amount of people you could be able to get to, except someone else pretty much puts their own identity and their own audience on the line to get you much more impressions. So that's why it says the feed shows just your post to a fraction of your own followers, and this is true, right? Because when you put a post just on your own page, that is an active post. But then when somebody out there probably engages it, maybe it's a like, it's a retweet, it's a quote tweet, it's a comment, what does that do? It literally takes it from your own page and then puts it, in on that person's own page as well, right? In the sense of it helps the algorithm travel far into the For You page, and literally that's where a lot of traction comes on when it comes to X. So the essence of using influencers and creators is that it opens audiences you will never reach alone as your own brand. organically for you. And number two, also trust transfers. I mean, like, let's take for instance a new product, coming out here. In this, in this time and age, trust is one of the very key things that a lot of people look at when, pretty much patronizing a product, using a product, because most of these products they'll probably need to maybe buy a subscription or maybe join a community or something related to maybe whatever objective we're trying to get, right? And then if you're new, you have to build that trust from ground up, right? So the reasons why influencers are on there pretty much and why we do get to work with them is because they have the existing audience that have trusted them thus far, right? How do we know that they've been trusted? Because people get to follow them. I mean, people do not follow people they do not trust. We get to see that they also get to engage with them, right? That's because there's this level of affinity these influencers have with their audience, right? So the essence on here with respect to the trust transfer is that when we have an audience that people already trust and they then lay some of that trust to your own news, literally what it does is that it brings their own community or their own audience to your own launch at that particular point in time. Number three is it triggers growth, to the algo. And this is very, very, very important. What do I mean on here? Just as I was explaining earlier on, each and every metric on X counts. The like metrics count, the retweet metrics count, the save metrics count, the share metrics count, copy link, and all of that. In fact, recently we're talking about something internally, as a team with respects to how the share button, the copy link button is being calculated with respects to how the what's it called the algorithm favors your content, right? So the essence on here is this: when an account that has a big following shares your post, literally what it does is that it exposes it to a larger audience, and then also it triggers the algorithm that, okay, this is a content somebody on here is engaging. I think this is important. So a lot of people still need to see this. But when you have a content, maybe you just get to post it on your account, nobody engages with it. What the algorithm is trained to know is that, oh, the fact that people are seeing this but nobody's engaging with it means that it's not exciting enough or people are not really interested. So what then happens? It is deprioritized in the algorithm. That's literally what happens. But then when you have influencers get to engage, and then by the time they engage, it gets onto their own page, goes into the For You page, gets into the trending news page, and people also get to still continue to talk about it. Literally, that's how the algorithm picks it up. Like, okay, I think this is something I need to pay attention to and also push out there, right? So also it gives you trending clout. Absolutely. It gives you trending clout. Targeted reach, that breaks through the ceiling is how a launch lands, the trending spots. And we're going to talk more about this in a minute, in the sense of when we literally work on influencers, we are not just looking at influencers from the position of of numbers, just numbers alone. Let me give you an instance. Say you're probably trying to sell, or maybe you're trying to sell meat, right? And then you get to to bring on a vegetarian influencer, right? Who literally has a lot of vegetarians as is our audience, right? And then he gets to share it. Literally, what do you have? You're not going to have any sort of value based off of that conversion. Why? Because that is a mismatch in terms of what this particular influencer represents and what you're promoting, right? So the idea at the end of the day is pretty much bringing both the creators that we have on here and your products and making sure they align in some sort of way. And then that way, by the time the content blows up, there you have it. Just as we have, for Patronus AI, that we shared earlier on, and then we have their news, trending, on Twitter, on X. So, yeah, next slide, please.
Before you move on to that, one thing I wanted to just touch on because you briefly alluded to the internal conversation we were having around the like what actually makes something go viral and what is X incentivizing. What he's talking about for those that aren't as like involved in the X news um world is last week X released the weighting of the importance of different events on X. So they basically ranked how much does it count if someone likes a post? How much does it count if someone reposts something? If someone comments on it? If someone copies a link and sends it to a friend? Like, what are those worth as far as indicating to the algorithm this is good content, this is worth resharing? And the weighting worked basically like this. Correct me if I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty confident. Basically, 1 point for liking. I believe it was like 2 points or something like that for reposting. So those are relatively low importance things. Sharing with a friend was the surprising one. It was 20 points. So someone pressing copy link and then sending it to a friend gives you 20 times the same weighted value of 20 people liking it, which is huge. And it's changed honestly a whole lot of how people are approaching these campaigns because we're optimizing now not for likes or things like that, but for people sharing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, Ty. Thanks for adding that to it. Yes. So, and then we go on to the next slide, which is how we pick the right creators.
Yeah,
So,
this is John as he's picking the influencers for the campaigns.
right, absolutely. So when it comes to picking the right creators, for a tech launch or for a product launch, it doesn't just come back to, okay, let's just see, all right, so does this person have 1 million followers, and then we just get to give you the brief. No, it's more about the alignment. It's more about the alignment. How exactly does this particular influencer align to this product? Even if this creator doesn't align 100%, how exactly can we be able to make sure this is a match, right, for this particular tech launch? And that is where we, at Clickstrike, that's where we come, into the mix, right? Because we have to definitely then go, into our inventory. We have to then look at exactly, what the options are, what the, where the community is and all of that, and then get to match, all of these things together. So matching the creator to the launch, I think matters much more than raw follower counts. This is very, very, very important, right? Imagine having to, just as I said earlier on, imagine having to match, a meat product, right, to a vegetarian influencer. It's not going to work. And on here on our team, we pretty much have more over 500, right, network of vetted accounts that cuts across AI, and technology, of which we get to also have various level of description that describes what their capacity is, right? There are certain creators who are able to translate technical products to technical audiences. But then not all creators can do that. So all of this, tiny, tiny bits, of information that segregates these creators are what we also get to focus on in terms of having to choose, the right creator. So what do we vet for? So in as much as yes, we talk about, yes, we don't look at follower count, it still counts. However, that is not the primary concern. So it's more or less like in a order of preference. So the primary concern is making sure the audience match, right? Does this particular influencer, have this particular audience? Is this really what they speak about? Is this what people know them for? Do people trust them on this particular subject? Once that is a hit, then we go into other metrics, right? To vet them, and then align accordingly. So number one is we look at the comment volume, right? And reply quality over follow accounts, right? Why is this important? The reason why this is important is it shows that people do not just view their content, but people actually engage with it. What do I mean? Right. So when we have an influencer that we want to lay credence, to our news, or probably, a client's, product launch, we don't just look for people just viewing, because the end goal of trending is not just to trend, but actually to have some sort of like, an action being taken, right? So let's say peradventure you get exposed to to 100,000 audience, right? And then at the end of the day, this 100,000 audience probably they don't get to link click, or they don't get to click on your profile to probably read more. Those are important metrics we get to watch out for. So when we look at, okay, what exactly is the comment volume? Does this particular influencer have credible comments? Not just even just have comments. Does this particular influencer also get to also engage, with his community or his our community? These are important things to also kind of like to also look out for, right? Next thing, we also look at whether the audience actually overlaps, with your buyer. I did talk about that earlier on. And then also native delivery, not just obvious ads. This is quite important, right? Today, people understand the difference between ads and storytelling, right? So that is why today a lot of the best performing ads have some level of storytelling behind it. And this is where our team gets to work with these creators in terms of like the creator brief that we get to share on how the video is on how the content is going to be. You're not just going to lay credence to your post by just writing a one-liner. right? Literally, that's not justice, right? There needs to be something that literally evokes maybe one level of emotion, or maybe just details exactly what we're talking about on here. So we literally look at this particularly when also selecting, creators. We are not just bluntly, writing out a copy, right? Or just copying and pasting. No, you're literally going to, talk about it, in a proper way that literally gets, people to love the product, and then also, take an action based off of our objective. And then
Yeah,
also,
we spoke about this briefly in a previous slide, but so much of the success is predicated on the messaging, right? And the messaging doesn't just mean like what is the angle that we're going to market with about this product specifically, but it's actually what is the messaging that each individual account is using. It can't look the same when we run these campaigns, when John's managing these campaigns. It's not the same thing copy and pasted to everyone. We don't script anything. We're huge advocates that influencers are incredible at understanding their audience. They understand what messaging resonates with them. We give them the parameters from which in what they should operate, what to talk about, what not to talk about, key things we think are interesting, things like that. All the assets they need, we do it in what's called a creator brief, and we have an individual one for every creator based on the type of content they make and sort of where they live in the ecosystem. Um, Only because of that are we able to achieve the results we've been able to. It's a very time-consuming process, but it's a very, very important process.
absolutely. Thanks, Ty. Thanks for adding that to it. And then, also we look at what the track record is, right? What is the track record of this particular influencer on subjects or maybe products within this particular category? Has this, influencer, how has this influencer done on, a tech product before, on an AI product before? We look at that, and then we're able to, make deductions off of our, next performing content is literally going to be. So matching to the launch, right? I just as I said earlier on, a technical audience needs a creator who can credibly demo the products, right? And I think that's one of the very things we also get to look at, right? Some of this, content that we have out there doesn't just signal to just pushes in terms of just likes, retweets, but also having the creator also get to like create a video, demoing the product, talking about it, talking about the various features, what the product mission, what the company mission is, or what the latest news is on there, right? And also like a funding story, right, needs reach amongst founders, and investors. And I think that's pretty important. So, looking at all of this in general, it just comes down back to when we talk about picking the right creators. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It takes a lot of time, just as Ty mentioned. It takes a lot of time, but this is what we get to carefully analyze over, multiple metrics and multiple rounds. We get to review, we look at it, we have conversations with this influencers, because there's going to be, a lot of communication, right? And that is where the time, that is where the time comes into play, and also that is where the experience comes into play, knowing exactly how to manage these influencer relationships. And I think it's been a super super exciting ride thus far, with the influencer team here at Clickstrike. This is exactly what we get to do day in day out, and we're super excited and we're super glad for the results that we've been able to have. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that. I'm seeing where we're at on time, so I'm going to have to speed run most likely some of the other slides, but there's not too many anyway. An important part though that definitely should not be too speed ran is common mistakes, because these are things that we see people do time and time again that really impact in a negative way their ability to have a successful launch. So I'll go through each of them. One is dilution. So dilution means a couple of things. Dilution could be across multiple channels, meaning they're going to launch and try to successfully amplify across X, across LinkedIn, across Instagram, across all these places. That is so much harder of a lift than focusing just on X or some other platform. We obviously recommend X because it's where we can see consistent results, and also the audience alignment, things like that, that probably don't need too much explaining from me. If you're in the tech world, you're probably spending a really good amount of time on X, so that's where we focus. Another one that's less commonly understood, though, is dilution across posts or pieces of content. And we see this sometimes where a client will come in and they have, let's say, two announcements in a month. They've got a launch here and a launch there, and they want to kind of split the focus between the two. Or even more commonly will be, hey, we have this announcement. We're going to have the brand account post it, and then we're going to have the founder account post it. And we want to amplify, both kind of within one. That's not the way to do it. So much of feeding an algorithm is concentration of focus and attention, and it should live in one specific place. So you should pick the brand is going to post it or the founder is going to post it. In some cases, maybe a CMO or something like that, but basically all the time, brand or founder. And that's honestly that comes into a couple factors how you decide that. Neither of them is super impactful. Both can work. The next one is bad timing. Um, there's some things within your control regarding setting timing and some things are without. Obviously, if you pick Thursday and on Thursday Anthropic releases some crazy market-changing thing, like it's going to bury your news. You have no way of knowing that. That's kind of just like a you have to be prepared for kind of thing. Very often we'll be able to pivot things on the fly. That's also one of the perks of working with an agency is let's say Tuesday something big happens, we can move to the next day or a day earlier. No problem. Also, just day of week and time of day is also important. Tuesdays to Thursdays is the sweet spot, and also working hours, but the earlier working hours. After you get past 1 p.m., people are a little bit more checked out, less excited. Whereas if someone opens their inbox 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever, they're way more likely to click through to something and actually buy something, engage with something. It's just more of like a kind of buying hour. And that goes beyond just influencer campaigns. That's just kind of best advice for social media in general. Third is my least favorite mistake, however you want to say that. It's the mistake that I hate the most when it happens, which is selling instead of showing the announcement. I put Captain Jack Sparrow here reacting how I react when I see someone put revolutionary or game changing in their copy for the announcement. Um, you're immediately going to lose a lot of credibility when you start selling instead of showing. People, especially in the tech world, are super savvy. They don't need to be like spoon-fed excitement. If you build something that's worth excitement, they're going to be excited by it as long as you just kind of highlight why it's exciting. Um, so that'd be more like matter of fact in your copy. Next one, vanity metric influencers. John touched on this a little bit. Focusing just on like followers in general or impressions on past tweets is not necessarily the way to do it. Obviously, it's an important part, but it's not the only important part. Audience alignment, all the things that John spoke to. I won't kind of like beat a dead horse on that. But it needs to overlap with your audience, and there needs to be a lot of those matches that John mentioned. The last one here is waiting for perfection. I kind of aligned like launch day with like wedding day for a tech company. It's huge. You want everything to go perfect. Um, Nothing's going to be perfect ever, and perfection is the whatever that saying is. Perfection is the enemy of good or good enough. Um, it's a huge day. It's not going to be your only day. You're gonna if the launch goes well, which it most likely will if you follow what we're talking about. You're going to have a ton more successful, very big, exciting days. So don't overthink it too much. 90% feeling prepared is enough. You're never going to feel 100%. So just don't wait too long. Um, and then here's that checklist that I wanted to, that I kind of teased at the beginning. This is a very important checklist because it tells me internally and our agency internally, and should apply to you, is what I'm thinking about putting some money behind, some resources behind to announce as a launch worth it, worth amplifying, or is it something I should wait on? So there's 6 bullet points here. If you say yes to 4 or more of these, you're good to go. 2 or less, you should wait, and then in between is kind of like a maybe. Number one is it genuinely new? Like, is this something that you haven't launched before? It's not some kind of repackaged, slightly different copy of something you announced before in the past. I do want to put like an asterisk on this though, because there are many examples of tech companies specifically launching several times the same thing. Airbnb, I think it's Airbnb famously launched like 3 or 4 times because they weren't happy with the first couple of launches. So it can be done, but you should try not to. It needs to be something new. Number two is an important one. Is there a number in it? Numbers get people excited. Numbers get people paying attention, especially big numbers. Um, TechCrunch doesn't care about you unless you've raised $2 million. Similarly, people in general don't care about you unless you've accomplished X in numbers. That's an easy way to quantify it without having to go into like that language that I said should be avoided. Number three is single date. Not like we're launching this over the next couple of weeks, but like we just launched this today or we're launching this tomorrow. Focus of messaging, focus of the event, all that plays here. Don't spread anything out too much. A nice kind of thought model is would a journalist cover this? And I'm almost like nervous to say that one because we always see from the agency side, see everyone thinks their announcement is newsworthy and everyone thinks a journalist is going to be thrilled to write about them. And that's oftentimes just not the case. Try to take from an objective lens. is this interesting that other people would care about it organically and apply that thinking. Um, uh, Next one, can you show it, not tell it? Similar to kind of the best practices of the launch video. Visual representation. Uh, I don't know what the number is, but I would say it's 500 times more impactful than like text-based. Something I wanted to mention on the mistake side is we'll see like, oh, well, Anthropic does an announcement and they just announced that, this update to Claude Code or remote control in Claude Code or something like that. They didn't use any video. They just did it in text base and it went viral. You're not Anthropic. You're not worth whatever billion/trillion dollars Anthropic is. You're not a core piece of software yet that every company cares about to that level. Don't like when you're going to model your launch, model it after companies that are like one step above you, that had a successful launch, not companies that are already Microsoft, Google level. It's a whole different playbook. Um, and is it relevant beyond your users? So ideally, you're going after mostly people that would be interested in using it, but does it make sense? Does it have kind of a more broader application to technology or just like the workforce in general that could be applied more broadly than just people that are already using it? So those are a couple things to ask. Again, if you have four or more, probably good to go. If you have two or less, you should probably wait. And if you're in between, um, worth the conversation. Which brings me to my next point is, and we're wrapping up here. Um, I want everyone to think through what a successful launch actually is worth to your company. And the reason I ask that is think about what you're working on right now. Think about what it's going to feel like when you launch it. Think about how key stakeholders, whether it's investors, whether it's users, whether it's your staff, and they're, maybe they have equity and they want to know that they're on a rocket ship, something like that. How important is that day? Because the answer, it's anxiety provoking, but the answer is it's very important, to be honest. And a successful launch can change the entire trajectory of a company, a successful launch. Um, so it's scary, but you're not alone. Hopefully you can see through, everything we've gone through that there is a reliable process that works for this. Obviously that we're doing this webinar, we're happy to help however we can. I put our website at the bottom here, clickstrike.com. If you go to that, there's a contact page, reach out. We'll do a free audit. We'll say, hey, this looks like it's ready for amplification, or no, it's not. And then maybe even give you some actionable advice on what you to do to get ready. But reach out there and we're happy to chat. So as we come to the end here, Q&A section, I know we're a little bit over time, so I don't know how much time we have. If you have any pressing questions that we think are a good fit, um, let's shoot. Otherwise, I'll give 1 second if anyone wants to throw a last minute question in the chat. And I actually can't find my chat. There we go. All right, I think we got through all of those. All right, so we'll end here. Thanks everyone that joined us. Hopefully, we delivered on our promise to add value, and you feel now prepared for your next launch, that you're ready to approach it either on your own or with a partner, understanding the pieces that are needed to make the launch successful. Definitely stay in touch with us. We're planning on doing a lot more of these webinars and also a lot of content just related on the topic of a successful tech launch on X. Follow us on X. John, I didn't know yours, so I didn't put it here. But Clickstrike underscore is Clickstrike's X handle, and mine is Ty Smith HQ. I put the contact page for our website, clickstrike.com/contact, and then I put my email there. So if anyone has questions after this that we didn't get through, just shoot me a message. This is like what I live and breathe is these launches, so I'm very happy to talk about this stuff like at length to probably an annoying level. But that's all, folks.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
John. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, everyone that participated.
Everyone. All right, have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye.